Episode 5 of With Love Meghan, Season 2, Part 2, is weird. She third wheels with Jay Shetty and his wife, and she opens the episode, confusingly, with Jamie Kern Lima at an olive farm, touring how olive oil is made and kind of watching the process and checking out the farm. But then Jamie Kern Lima is absent from the actual episode, so that's super weird. Where did she go? Was she uninvited? Did she not want to be in an episode with Jay Shetty? Both Jamie Kern Lima and Jay Shetty have some degree of controversies in their spaces that they operate within, where some people think they're maybe taking advantage of people in that space of self-help and stuff like that. Maybe Jamie Kern Lima didn't think her brand of podcasting and worthiness and religion and stuff vibed well enough with Jay Shetty's more new agey approach. I don't know, but it was weird and conspicuous and it was not explained. So then Meghan just sort of third wheeled with Jay and Roddy, and it felt weird at times. It really did. It had super strange vibes the whole episode, but especially this intro with Jamie Kern Lima and then no acknowledgement of her not just that was it. It's never been explained and it was super bizarre. It's not normal for a show to just have somebody in the opening scenes and then just absent with no explanation from the rest of the episode. That is weird. Anyway, the Shettys still felt like a safe choice because their reputation to be super nice and polite and not say anything bad about anybody, even without an NDA, felt like playing it safe. But it is a bit curious that they agreed to do the show at the same time. I wonder how they reconcile being on Meghan's show against their brand that's very meditative and feels like a brand that would not support someone who went about lying about people on TV for years. I don't know, just my observation. These two things feel like they are opposing ideas. Once again, there were added voiceovers to create transitions between things, to explain what they were doing here and there, to try to cure some of the problems from part 1. But again, same as all the other episodes, the voiceovers are really obvious and clunky. But I guess they did hear the criticism about the disorganized abruptness of part 1, where guests looked really clueless and viewers were confused about what was going on in the flow of the episodes, the format of the episodes. Because Meghan, I noticed by this episode, several times put in voiceovers in post-production to sort of smooth the transitions of, okay, now while that's setting, while we're waiting for this to rise, or while we're waiting for this to happen, let's go to the craft barn to kill this time while we're waiting for something to get done in the kitchen, for example. And to be fair, that does help a little bit in terms of the flow and format of the episode. But Radia instructed most of the episode and led all of the cooking. Like the other episodes so far, it's clear that they really shifted the focus to allow the guest to appear more so as the leader, teaching Meghan something, because they noticed that it wasn't going well the first few episodes filmed, and they had to pivot and lean in even harder in post-production, because it's obvious that a lot of this heavy lifting here on making it seem like Meghan was the learner was done in post-production, because it's not scenes where she is face-to-face, zoomed out, saying to the person, show me how to do this. It's a voiceover of, oh, I'm glad you're here to teach me this, or I would like you to teach me more of this. Also, throughout both parts, season/part 1 and season 2, all the episodes, the music is overwhelming. Especially at certain times. It comes off as just noise, just going ham, because it is a little bit loud compared to what would normally be like music in the background during an episode, but also because the choice of songs don't really fully fit the moment. Like, they're either too intense, too loud, too energetic for the moment. I mean, the things that Meghan's doing are really bland and boring and small and, just controlled. So you wouldn't expect something more of lively music during something like that. But sometimes it feels like that. Like it just doesn't match what's on screen. It feels too lively for what's on screen. And the purpose of that is obviously trying to just sell a certain vibe, a certain narrative, a certain energy to convey a feeling. But that feeling and vibe that the music has just doesn't match Meghan or what we're seeing on screen. So sometimes, especially in this episode, it was just too much because it was too disjointed to what was happening. It didn't fit. So then it felt overwhelming and loud and noisy and just wrong for the episode. The reason why they made that choice, though, is clearly because they had to take so much out, so much of the audio out of Meghan talking about herself, that they had to fill in the awkward silence. They couldn't just have silence, and they didn't have any other sound bites, so they had to just play music over everything. And there still isn't enough instruction. So you're just watching something being made, and you're just watching Meghan kind of list off some elements of whatever's going on, but she isn't teaching the viewer anything. I can't think of any other shows within the genre like this, like lifestyle, cooking, gardening, homemaking, crafting content. Across YouTube, there's so much variety. Across network shows or streamers, there's less variety, but there's a lot in terms of cooking and things that are mostly carried by cooking. But across all of these, I can't really think of any other shows that do this sort of a thing where you're just kind of watching it happen and you're not getting any substance or instruction, or there's not any other element to it to engage the viewer. Like, for example, I quite like the cooking and baking competitions, like Great British Baking Show. When Mary Berry was on it, was one of my favorites of all time. I like some of the like spring baking championships or holiday ones, or some of the cooking competitions. So in cooking competitions, you don't get a recipe. You don't get the recipes for how they're making these things. And Meghan's not telling us how to make these things. But the difference with a competition is that you're watching them compete and you're watching them get judged. And you're seeing the items get made. It's exciting because they're up against the clock or they're trying to make it better than everybody else's or whatever. And then you see the finished product, you see it tasted, you hear the critiques, and then, somebody gets sent home at the end of the episode or whatever. Somebody gets an advantage at the end of the preheat, whatever it is. And so the competition is the excitement and sets a pace and sucks you in and makes it fun to watch. It's a competition. Duh. So it doesn't matter that you're not getting the recipes. But then there's instructional content where there's the real recipes, things like Ina Garten and all the other like cooking shows out there, like so many of them, too many examples to name. So those you're getting the real recipes, you're seeing the real techniques, you're watching them use the equipment and the ingredients and show you how to prepare it and offer you tips on how they think it's easier. Sometimes they offer alternatives, like if you want to change it to this, or if you need to use this ingredient different, or only add this if you like it, or if you're allergic to this, try this, stuff like that. If you don't have a mandolin, this is what you can do instead, those types of things. And it's demonstrated how to make the food and do the recipes. Meghan doesn't have that. So those are kind of the two main realms within this genre. It's either a competition or it's instructional. And Meghan is neither of those, which makes this really drab. And it just highlights the fact that there is a reason why the whole watch me make something and not give the recipe formula or version of a cookery show has never been done before, because it doesn't work, because it's boring and dumb, and it doesn't give the viewer anything to get interested in or pay attention to, really. To make matters worse, Meghan's insights are just basic platitudes, uninspired and lame. Things like, appreciate the craftsmanship of the bread, or we're not going for perfect, we're going for real. What value does that bring? That's not interesting to hear someone say. It's just like, okay, whatever, Meghan. What are you even talking about? She would have been better off to talk about how you can tell a loaf of bread is going to be a good one. The crust, remember in Ratatouille? One of the best scenes. Like, she could have just at least thrown in something of like, how do you know it's going to be good bread? At least, instead of just like, I appreciate the craftsmanship of the bread. Do you, Meg? Great, good for you. And she caps this episode off by talking about how important it is, so essential, to accommodate your guests' preferences. The hypocrisy is blinding. She neglected to do this with her in-laws. She was not accommodating to any of their culture or preferences, apparently. According to her own words, she was offended that someone didn't want to share their lip gloss. She was offended that someone wore shoes when she was barefoot. She was offended that someone had personal boundaries when meeting a stranger. Insanity. Meghan has outed herself as not accommodating to people at all, and now she's trying to erase that with this stupid show. Hillary Rose wrote, "With Love, Meghan review, season 2 is here. Start therapy now." It's not often that I don't know where to start, so let's start with a question. Are you comfortable, Meghan says to her makeup artist, cutting onions? And with that, we are off into a season 2 of With Love, Meghan, a series in search of meaning, fronted by a woman in need of some cash. Episode 1 is a glimpse into the future of what the next 7 episodes might bring. Start therapy now. It never becomes apparent why we should be interested in watching Daniel, Meghan's makeup artist, slice onions, or why we should be interested in watching Meghan make a caramelized onion tart. But look at all the lovely clothes. Marvel at the constant changes of soundtrack. And doesn't our Megs look pretty and well lit? In episode 1, our heroine is expecting the arrival of 2 dear friends whom she may or may not know, and Daniel, for one, can't believe that they are coming. One of them is the Momofuku noodle guy, and the other is famous for her playful desserts, which is what exactly? A crumble with a sense of humor? A pie on a whoopee cushion? Meghan powders Daniel's nose, and Daniel smiles prettily, or maybe it's the other way around, and we're only about 9 minutes in with so much fun and good times still to endure. The plan seems to be that Meg will cook something prettily, Mambo will turn to jazz, and then there's a crafting segment that reminds me of something, but I can't think what. I'll get back to you on that. We finish by congratulating ourselves on our good fortune and excellent flatbreads. Along the way, there will be marbling and sugar syrup and who knows what is still to come. We started episode 1 with sunrise on the beach, and we finished with sunset, which is such a clever device, it's a wonder no one thought of it before. Meg runs through all the things we've seen and done, and what a day it has been. If season 1 of With Love, Meghan had punning episode titles, I must have found them so funny I've wiped them from memory. Laugh along with me afresh, then, at season 2, episode 2, which is about making bread, and it's called Way Past Our Bread Time. You'll remember that in episode 1, we were ordered to embrace new projects with enthusiasm, but enthusiasm can be hard to summon when you're staring down the barrel of 2.5 hours of tin-eared inanity. But when our heroine arrives dressed for baking in an artfully tied shirt, collar top, Princess Diana's gold watch lovingly lit on her wrist, and I rally. She weighs flour and measures water, and we watch the readout on the digital scales go up and up, which makes for such great TV. It's a wonder no ought to do it on Bake Off. With Love, Meghan is baffling. It occupies the sweet spot where irrelevant meets intolerable. It's like an advert for somewhere we'll never go and aren't invited. An ego trip in a sun hat that boils down to this. Meghan is pretty and likes roast chicken and flower arranging. That's an entry for Miss World, not a concept for 10 hours of TV. As the end credits roll on the crew having compulsory fun at a wrap party, the soundtrack is someone singing "Don't Let It Be the Last Time." Please, let it be the last time. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!